She obtained a legal work visa, but the system said it didn't include her daughter. When Maria received the call saying Anna had been detained at the border, she knew her dream of freedom had turned into a nightmare. Separated by a cruel decision, mother and daughter faced the desperation of a dangerous journey, a freezing shelter, and glass walls that prevented even a hug. But the reunion changed everything. The morning the letter arrived, Maria couldn't believe it. She held it in her trembling hands as if it were a piece of gold, reading and rereading the words printed in black ink. Approved. H-2B visa for temporary work in the hotel sector, Florida, United States. If you like interesting stories, hit like, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our content. And tell us in the comments where you're watching this video from. We'd love to hear from you. She was in her mother's kitchen, a humble home on the outskirts of Santa Rita, Honduras, with bare cinder block walls, a tin roof that creaked in the heat, and a dirt floor that, even with sweeping, never stopped staining your feet. The news spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Nobody could believe it. Maria, who had been cleaning houses since she was 15, had been chosen. "You're going north," shouted the neighbor across the street with enthusiasm that hid envy. "But I'm not going alone," Maria responded with a smile that came from her soul. "In a few months, Anna and I will be there, together." Anna, her 10-year-old daughter, watched her from the hammock. Her eyes were large, black as the night before rain. She looked up and asked innocently, "Are there schools there, Mummy?" "Of course there are," Maria said while stroking her hair. "And they're beautiful, with glass windows and new books. You'll learn English, and you'll have ice cream every Sunday." The promise was simple, but powerful. A new life. Not of wealth, not of luxury, but of dignity. Being able to walk without fear. Being able to work without humiliation. For her daughter to have a safe roof, enough food, and the opportunity to study. It was a dream born in the midst of dust, abandonment, and the constant fear of raising a daughter alone in an area controlled by gangs, where every day deaths were counted, and every night they slept praying to see the dawn. But to achieve it, first, she had to leave alone. The following days were a mix of excitement and sadness. Maria walked with her head held high, but inside she felt something squeezing her chest. She organized papers, said goodbye to neighbors, and at night stayed awake watching Anna sleep, recording every breath as if it were a farewell. The day before leaving, she packed a backpack with her few belongings, a change of clothes, simple shoes, a photo of Anna framed in cheap cardboard, and a chain with a medal of the Virgin of Suyapa, the same one her mother had given her when her daughter was born. On the last night, Maria cooked Anna's favorite meal, rice with chicken, handmade tortillas, and fresh pineapple juice. Anna ate in silence, knowing without fully understanding that something important was about to change. "Are you coming back, Mum?" she asked in a soft voice. Maria crouched in front of her, took her hands, and with tears in her eyes said, "I'm not just coming back. I'm bringing you with me. I promise. This trip is for you, so we can have something better." The next morning, the bus station was full of goodbyes, but Maria and Anna's was the kind that tears you apart. Anna wouldn't let go. She clung to her mother's dress with strength, as if she could prevent the goodbye just with her embrace. Maria crouched down once more, wiped her own tears, and handed her a letter. "Read it every night before bed, okay? What does it say?" "It says I love you, and that soon we'll be together again." Maria got on the bus without looking back. If she did, she wouldn't have the strength to continue. The engine started, and the streets of Santa Rita began to fade away. Through the window, she saw Anna running after the bus for a few meters, then stopping, exhausted, with tear-filled eyes. It was then, in that moment, when Maria felt her heart split in half. Not for leaving, but for not being able to take her with her. The journey to Florida was long. She passed through San Pedro Sula, then Mexico City, and finally arrived at Miami Airport, where a program supervisor waited for her with a folder of papers. Maria was exhausted. Her body ached, but her mind was clinging to a single image: Anna waiting for her. "Welcome," the supervisor said, extending his hand. "Here begins a new chapter." Maria barely smiled politely. Inside, she was already making plans. She would calculate her expenses, send money every week, seek legal counsel, and in a few months, Anna would be with her. That's what they had told her. That's what she had believed. But in the shadow of the system, something very different awaited her. The morning of departure, the sky was grey. It wasn't raining, but the heavy air foretold that something would break. The San Pedro Sula bus station was chaos with suitcases, voices, and half-said goodbyes. Among the crowd, Maria held her suitcase with one hand and her daughter Anna with the other. The child, barely 10 years old, wore a yellow blouse that was once white and a blue bow that her mother had carefully tied. But that bow no longer danced with joy. It was still, like the child's sad eyes. "Mommy, I don't want you to go," Anna said in a thread of a voice. "My love." Maria crouched in front of her, trying to hold back tears. "It's for you, so we have a future. I swear by everything I have." Anna hugged her waist tightly. Maria felt like she couldn't breathe. She never thought saying goodbye to her daughter would be worse than any border, any danger. She wanted to find comforting words, but couldn't find them. She only repeated, "I promise I'll come for you. I promise you, my child." Maria's mother, Doña Efigenia, watched from a cement bench, her face hard, but eyes moist. She would take care of Anna while her daughter established herself in the United States. She had done it before with other grandchildren, but this case was different. Maria and Anna had been inseparable since the child's father abandoned them. Anna never knew that man. It was Maria who taught her to walk, to read, to pray, and now she had to learn to live without her, at least for a while. The bus announced departure with a dry whistle. Maria felt a stab in her chest. It was now. She had to get on. There was no more time. "Come on, my love," she said while slowly letting go of her daughter's hands. Anna clung to her dress. "No, Mommy, please take me with you." "I can't. Not now, but soon, I promise." A silent tear ran down Anna's cheek. Maria wiped it with her trembling hand. She handed her a small teddy bear, one she had sewn herself with scraps of old clothes. "When you miss me, hug it tight, okay? I'll do the same with your photo." The moment was eternal. One last caress, one last kiss on the forehead. Then Maria got on the bus, and from the window she didn't look away from her daughter. Anna waved, crying. Doña Efigenia held her by the shoulders. Maria also cried silently. The engine roared and the vehicle began to move. Maria's world split in two, the one she left behind and the uncertain one she was heading toward. During the journey to the airport, Maria didn't speak to anyone. She looked out the window at the fields, the streets, the zinc roofs, the children playing barefoot and thought, what if something goes wrong? What if I can never bring her? What if Anna thinks I abandoned her? She landed in Miami the next day. She was received by a representative of the Temporary Worker Program who transported her along with other migrants to a hotel in Orlando. The work wasn't easy. Double shifts, cleaning rooms, washing sheets, scrubbing bathrooms. But Maria didn't complain. Every dollar she earned, she mentally divided. One part for Anna, another for legal procedures, another for rent shared with 2 roommates. At the end of each workday, she checked her phone waiting for a call from Honduras. When it rang, her voice changed. It became sweeter, softer. Anna told her how school was going, that Grandma had taken her to the market, that she had dreamed about her. "When are you coming for me, Mummy?" Anna asked every time. "Soon, my love, very soon. I'm already saving." "I'm already looking for a lawyer." But in the solitude of her room, Maria knew that soon was an attempt to keep hope alive. She had started contacting immigration lawyers. The first asked for $3,000 just to start the case. The second was more honest. With the new immigration policies, it will be very difficult to bring your daughter legally, especially if you entered the country alone. But she hasn't crossed. She's still in Honduras. I just want to do things right, Maria said. I understand that, but the system won't make it easy for you. Maria hung up the call and stayed staring at the ceiling, feeling small, powerless. She was in the land of opportunities, but hers was incomplete. Her opportunity would only make sense when she could look her daughter in the eyes and say, "I kept my promise." The money began to accumulate in her account. The calls with Anna were daily. But there were nights when the child didn't want to talk. "What's wrong, love?" Maria would ask. "Nothing," Anna would say, and you could hear her held breath. "It's just that today I dreamed you never came back." It was that night, while crying and hugging her daughter's photo, that Maria understood time was her enemy. No matter how much money she earned, no matter how much she tried to do everything the legal way, there was a childhood slipping away. Anna was growing up without her, and the bond they had protected so much was beginning to fray. And then an idea began to germinate in Maria's mind, one that scared her, but that she couldn't ignore. If the system wasn't going to allow her to bring her daughter through the door, maybe she would have to find a different route, one that many other mothers had already taken. Summer in Florida was unbearable. The sticky heat accumulated between the walls of the hotel where Maria worked from sunrise to sunset. The air conditioning barely managed to cool the hallways, but she didn't care. Every sheet stretched, every floor mopped, every tip left on the nightstand meant one step closer to Anna. Every penny had a name, a face, a destination. It was in September, after 6 months without rest, that Maria felt she finally had enough to start the legal reunification process. She had found a young lawyer of Salvadoran origin who offered to help her for a fair fee. Her name was Camila Ramirez, and she worked at a community office in Tampa. Maria traveled there by bus, with all her papers in a blue folder, her H-2B visa, her work contract, remittances sent to Honduras, Anna's birth certificate, even a letter written by grandmother Efigenia describing the family situation. Camilla reviewed everything carefully with a furrowed brow. "Your case is strong," she said, nodding. "You're a legal worker, you have stable income, no record. It should be a viable process." Maria felt relief. She imagined hugging Anna at the airport, walking with her down the street, buying her new shoes. "So, how long would it take to bring her?" she asked anxiously. But Camilla didn't respond immediately. She opened her laptop, searched for files, reviewed a database. Then she leaned back in her chair, as if she had to prepare to say something she didn't want to say. With the Trump administration's immigration reforms, reunification processes have become much stricter, especially for minors who aren't in situations of extreme danger or don't have parents with permanent residence or approved asylum. Maria frowned, not fully understanding. "But I'm her mother, and I have a valid visa." "I know," Camilla responded with regret, "but to the system you are a temporary worker. That doesn't give you automatic right to request your daughter's entry." So what do I do?" The lawyer sighed. "We can try a humanitarian petition, but it won't be easy. The government prioritizes cases of orphaned children, victims of trafficking, or direct violence. And a mother who had to leave her daughter out of necessity doesn't count as urgent?" Maria asked, her voice breaking. Camilla lowered her gaze. She had no answers, only cold laws. Maria left the office with papers in hand, feeling the world crumble. She walked to a bus stop, sat on the curb, and cried. She didn't scream, she didn't curse. She just covered her face with her hands while people passed around her as if she were invisible. That night, she called Anna as always. But for the first time, she couldn't pretend everything was okay. "Did something happen to you, Mommy?" Anna asked, sensing the tremor in her voice. "Nothing, my love. It was just a difficult day. Is it almost time for you to come get me?" Maria swallowed. She didn't want to lie, but she couldn't tell the truth either. "Less time than yesterday, my princess. I promise you that much." After hanging up, she locked herself in the bathroom of the apartment she shared and looked at her reflection. She had deep, dark circles, dry skin, and dull eyes. She felt alone, completely alone. They had told her that America was the land of opportunities, but nobody warned her that those opportunities didn't include a mother's right to be with her daughter. The following days were torture. Maria tried to keep busy at work, but her mind only thought of Anna. She imagined the child no longer remembered the sound of her voice, that she had forgotten the smell of her skin, that someday she would stop calling her mom. She spoke with Camilla again and again. They looked for other alternatives: family reunification petitions, employer support letters, emergency applications. But nothing worked. All applications were rejected without explanation, or with a single phrase repeated like a sentence: "Does not meet criteria established by the Department of Homeland Security." Maria didn't understand. What criteria were those? What mother had to meet requirements to love her daughter? What kind of system considered a child separated from their only family not a priority? She began attending community meetings, looking for NGOs, reading internet forums, talking with other migrant mothers. Each story was worse than the last. Mothers who had gone years without seeing their children, children growing up in temporary homes, in strangers' houses, or worse, detained, marked by trauma. And then, a phrase repeated among them like a forbidden whisper: "If you can't bring her legally, look for her like many do. There are ways. There are people who cross children." Maria felt fear just thinking about it, but she also felt a stab of hope, a way out, although dangerous, although illegal. After hanging up one night after another frustrated call with the lawyer, Maria turned on her phone and searched on Google, "How to cross a minor across the Mexico-US border." The first result was a WhatsApp number. She saved it without saying anything. And there, in the silence, the most difficult decision of her life began to take shape. Maria spent several days in silence. She worked mechanically, without speaking, without looking at anyone. Every time she washed a sheet or placed a towel in a room, her mind returned to Honduras, to Anna, to that face she remembered with more precision than seemed possible. She was falling apart inside. She felt like she was losing time, losing her life, and above all, losing her daughter. The calls with Anna became increasingly painful. The child spoke less. She answered with monosyllables. One night, Maria asked if she had eaten, and Anna took so long to respond that the silence was like a slap. "Yes, rice and beans," she finally responded without emotion. "And school?" "Fine. Same as always." After that call, Maria sat on the kitchen floor with her back against the refrigerator door and burst into tears. She cried like she hadn't since she was 17, when she found out she was pregnant and her daughter's father said he wouldn't take responsibility. She cried like a woman who has run out of options. It was then that she opened the WhatsApp number she had silently saved days before. It was a contact without a profile picture, with a Mexico flag in the username. Carlos Coy, Safe Transfers. She hesitated for a few minutes. Her heart was beating hard. She thought about what she was about to do, but the image of Anna alone, with that lifeless tone in her voice, gave her the final push. "Hello, I'm the mother of a 10-year-old girl who is in Honduras. I need to bring her to the US urgently. Tell me if you can help me." The message was sent. Not even 5 minutes passed when the blue icon confirmed the message had been read. And then came the response. "Of course, Mom. We've done this type of transfer many times. Everything is done carefully. Do you have family in Mexico who can receive her?" Maria swallowed. She had no one in Mexico, no contacts. But that didn't stop her. "No, she would travel directly from San Pedro Sula with you. We can arrange it. We just need a photo of the child, full name, age, and contact information for whoever currently has her. The crossing is done through Sonora. It takes between 10 and 12 days. The cost is $8,500. Maria felt a stab in her chest. That amount was more than she had saved in all those months. Even so, she didn't hesitate. I have 5,000. I can get the rest in payments. If you are her mother, we trust you. But the second payment must be before the crossing. Are you willing? And there it was. The question that defined everything. Are you willing? It didn't say if it was legal, if it was safe, if it was right. Just, are you willing? Maria didn't respond immediately. She stared at the phone as if the screen could speak to her, as if waiting for a divine sign. She thought of all the nights Anna slept without her. She thought of the promise she made. I will bring you with me. She thought of the system that had ignored her, of laws that never understood what it meant to be a mother. Yes, I am willing. In the next 24 hours, Maria organized everything. She called her mother in Honduras and explained what was going to happen. Doña Efigenia at first refused outright. Are you crazy? She's a child. Do you know the dangers? Mom, I have no choice. If I wait any longer, I lose her. I don't want her to grow up thinking I abandoned her. Finally, the grandmother agreed. Not willingly, but with a heart as broken as her daughter's. Maria sent Anna's photo, her full name, and contact information. In 2 days, some men arrived in a white truck without plates to pick up the child. Doña Efigenia cried silently as she gave her one last kiss on the forehead. Anna, confused, asked, "Where are they taking me, Grandma?" "To your mother, my love. You'll see her very soon. Be brave." Maria in Florida waited for each message from the coyote as if they were drops of water in a desert. They informed her of checkpoints, rest stops, vehicle changes. The child traveled with 5 other minors, hidden in the back of a truck transporting fruit. Sometimes they sat, sometimes they lay down with no space to move. "Today we crossed Guatemala. Tomorrow we enter Chiapas," said one message. Maria couldn't sleep. She went to work with deep dark circles, trembling hands, a closed stomach. In her mind, every kilometer was a possibility that something could go wrong. An accident, an assault, a raid, the desert. But the worst was yet to come. On the 6th day, Carlos wrote to her at 2 in the morning. They intercepted the group in northern Sonora. Border patrol. Everyone was detained. Your daughter is fine, but she was separated. Being an unaccompanied minor, they took her to a center. Maria was in shock. She read the message 5 times. Her world collapsed. Breathing became heavy. She screamed. She hit the wall. Then she collapsed on the floor, sobbing desperately. They had separated her from her daughter again, but now she was much farther away, and worse, in the hands of a system that didn't recognize her as a mother. The phone rang again. It was a call from a restricted number. "Maria Hernandez," said a cold voice on the other end. "Yes." "Nader, this is the Office of Refugee Resettlement calling. Your daughter Anna was detained at the border. She is in federal custody. We need to verify if you have a relationship with the minor." Maria tried to speak, but her voice was breaking. "I'm her mother. I'm her mother. I have a visa, legal work. I live here." "Unfortunately, your immigration status does not allow you to claim immediate custody. Your daughter will be transferred to a shelter while we evaluate the situation." Click. The call was cut off, and with it, the hope that everything would turn out as she had dreamed. The desert doesn't forgive. Not the skin, not water, not innocence. Anna never imagined that crossing to where her mother was would mean hiding in dark compartments, breathing the smell of gasoline for hours, and feeling her throat stick from thirst. In her child's mind, only one certainty existed. I'm going to see my mother. She's waiting for me. But as the days passed, that thought became more distant, more blurred. The journey had begun with kind words. The men who picked her up in San Pedro Sula told her she shouldn't be afraid. You just have to be obedient, little one. We'll take care of you. one of them said with a false smile. She first traveled on a broken-down bus, sitting in the back, with her head covered by a dirty blanket so no one would see she was a minor. Then they transferred her to a house in Tapachula, where there were other children and 2 women. There she remained locked up for almost 2 days, with scarce food, unable to speak with her grandmother or her mother. No one explained anything to her. When she asked why she couldn't call, they responded, "Everything's fine, it's almost over, your mother knows." But Anna felt something was wrong. She cried silently at night, clinging to the stuffed animal her mother had given her before leaving. She carried it hidden in her backpack and hugged it tight, as if that was enough to protect her. The most difficult day was the 7th. They were already in northern Mexico. They had left a house in Hermosillo at 3 in the morning. They put them in an old truck, along with fruit boxes to disguise them. They made them lie on top of each other without moving. Anna was in the middle, feeling the weight of the other children on her. She couldn't breathe well. One of the smaller ones vomited from fear. The smell, the heat, the suffocation, everything was unbearable. At noon, the truck stopped abruptly. "Everyone stay still!" shouted a man from outside. A flashlight beam slipped through the cracks of the box. Then, a different voice, in broken English, "U.S. Border Patrol, step out, now!" Anna didn't understand the words, but recognized the tone: fear, authority, threat. One by one, they took them out of the vehicle. The adults were separated immediately. The children were placed in a line under the sun. Anna had a dry mouth, cracked lips. Her legs were trembling. An agent crouched in front of her. "Do you speak English?" Anna shook her head. "Spanish?" She barely nodded. "Are you alone?" "I'm coming with my mother," she lied. "She's waiting for me." The agent stood up. He gave instructions in a low voice to another officer. In less than an hour, Anna was put in another truck, this time cleaner with air conditioning. But there were no more fruits or other children. She was alone. They took her to a temporary detention center near Tucson. The place was cold, with gray walls, fluorescent lighting, and a constant feeling of surveillance. Everything seemed like a prison, although they didn't call it that. The floor was hard, aluminum blankets rustled with any movement, and the lights never turned off completely. There, no one called her by her name. She was the minor, the detainee, the Central American child. They asked her questions she didn't understand. They signed papers without explaining. They gave her an identification number and a bag with personal items, a toothbrush, a pair of socks, a large t-shirt. 2 days later, she was transferred to a federal shelter in New Mexico. The journey was long and silent. Other children accompanied her this time, but no one spoke. They all had empty looks, as if something had been turned off inside them. In Florida, Maria wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping, wasn't thinking. She lived with her phone in her hand, waiting for someone to say her daughter was okay. After the ICE call, almost 3 days passed without any news. Every time she called, they sent her from one number to another. No one gave clear answers. Finally, a social worker confirmed Anna's location. The tone was neutral, almost robotic. "She is in a child shelter under supervision. She is physically stable. We cannot confirm more information until pertinent verifications are made." "But I'm her mother. I have the right to see her." "Your immigration status does not qualify for immediate direct custody. We can schedule a supervised visit in the coming days. You cannot touch her, only speak through the glass." Maria hung up the phone, feeling her blood boiling. She ran to her room, took out her purse, grabbed her passport, the papers, and bought the first plane ticket to New Mexico. Nothing was going to stop her. Not the law, not the distance, not the system, because her daughter was alone, and she wasn't going to let anyone else come between them anymore. Maria arrived in Albuquerque at dawn. The plane landed in the middle of a light storm, and while all passengers ran to find taxis or transportation, she stood for a few seconds in front of the airport exit door, feeling how the wind's humidity hit her face. In her backpack, she carried the most important documents of her life: her H-2B visa, Anna's birth certificate, photos she printed at a neighborhood pharmacy, and a handwritten letter from her mother in Honduras, affirming that Maria was Anna's legitimate mother. She took an Uber to the government miners' shelter, located on the outskirts of the city. The driver, a dark-skinned man with a Texan accent, looked at her through the rear-view mirror when she explained where she was going. "To see a detained child?" he asked with some disbelief. "My daughter," Maria responded without looking away from the window. "That's messed up." There were no more words during the journey. The center was a gray building, 3 stories, with cameras in every corner and a double fence at the entrance. It had no sign saying shelter or refuge, just a technical name, as if they wanted to hide what it really was, a place where they locked up children. Maria approached the reception trembling. "I've come to see my daughter. Her name is Ana Sofia Martinez. She was detained at the border 4 days ago. I was called from this center." The woman behind the counter didn't even look up. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I'm her mother. I have all the papers. Please, I need to see her." No one enters here without an appointment, and visits are only allowed with ICE approval. Maria felt her soul leaving her body. "I'm begging you. I'm legally in this country. I work in Florida. She's my daughter. I've been looking for her since they separated her." The receptionist finally looked at her. "Wait outside, I'll verify." More than 40 minutes passed. Maria stood in the parking lot with cold seeping through her clothes while reviewing the documents in her purse over and over. Each second was an eternity. She thought of Anna, in there, alone, confused, not understanding why her mother didn't appear. Finally, an agent came out with a folder in hand. "You will be allowed to see the minor under supervised conditions. You will have 20 minutes. You cannot touch her, only communicate through the glass. No recordings or photos." "Understood?" Maria nodded, unable to speak. They led her down a long hallway lit with white lights and silent as a hospital. At the end, a metal door opened and led to a room divided by thick glass, like those seen in prisons. On one side, a metal chair. On the other, another equal one. And there, sitting wearing an oversized sweatshirt and disheveled hair, was Anna. Maria froze. The child looked at her but didn't react. She didn't smile. She didn't stand up. She just looked at her with reddened eyes and an empty expression the mother had never seen on her face. Maria raised her hand, crying, "My love! Anna, Mommy is here! Forgive me for all this!" Anna said nothing. She blinked slowly and then looked down. Maria approached the glass with her palms against the crystal. "I promised I'd come for you. I'm here, my child. Everything will be okay. This is almost over." But Anna didn't react. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just pressed her lips together as if everything inside her had been turned off. An assistant handed Maria a phone connected to the intercom. "You can speak through this." Maria took it with trembling hands. "Anna, look at me. Please, say something. Anything." The child slowly picked up the phone and brought it to her ear. "Why did you leave me alone, Mom?" The words cut her soul. Maria was left speechless. She didn't know how to respond to that. Her world collapsed with that simple, direct question, but as deep as an open wound. "I didn't want to. I couldn't take you before. I tried everything, Anna, everything. They told me you couldn't come with me. I swear I did everything possible." "I was scared," Anna said in a thread of a voice. "I thought you didn't love me anymore." Maria began to sob. "No, never think that. Never. I love you more than my life. All this was for you." Anna looked down again. You could tell she wanted to believe, but the pain was winning over logic. At 10 years old, she already knew the betrayal of a system that had no face or heart. When the time was up, a voice said over the speaker, "End of visit. Please leave." Maria didn't move. "Let me see her a little longer, just one more minute. She's my daughter." The agents didn't respond. They just entered to remove her. Maria, desperate, turned toward the glass, hitting it with open hands, with tear-filled eyes. "I love you, Anna. I love you, my child. I swear, I'm going to get you out of here." Anna barely raised her hand and placed it against the glass. For the first time, a tear fell down her cheek, and Maria, on the other side, placed her hand exactly in the same place. Two souls separated by a broken promise, by a system that didn't know what a mother's love was. If you're enjoying this story, hit like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications to stay updated on all our content. The image of Anna with her hand against the glass remained etched in Maria's memory like an eternal photograph. That scene, brief and mute, weighed more on her than any double shift, more than all lived humiliations, more than hunger or fear. In that instant, she understood that there was something that not even the purest love could prevent. The damage was already done. That night, Maria slept in a cheap motel on the outskirts of Albuquerque. She didn't even turn off the light. She sat on the edge of the bed, hugging the backpack where she carried her daughter's photo, the stuffed animal sewn with scraps, and the letter Anna had sent her a year ago, where she said, "When we're together, I want you to teach me to cook like you." She cried silently. She didn't scream. She didn't break anything. She no longer had the strength to explode. Just warm tears that fell without permission, one after another, wetting her shirt and her soul. The next morning, Maria took a taxi to the headquarters of an organization called United Roots, a local NGO that helped migrant families. She had read about them on a forum, and although she didn't know if they could do anything, she had no other option. She was received by a young woman with thick glasses and a folder in hand. Her name was Jimena Reyes. She was the daughter of Mexicans and a human rights lawyer. She listened to the whole story without interrupting. She took notes, asked for copies of documents, and at the end, with slightly moist eyes, said, "What you're experiencing isn't fair, but you're not alone. We're going to move heaven and earth to get her out of there." "Really? Can you do it?" Maria asked, with a spark of hope emerging from so much darkness. "We can pressure, use the media, contact congresspeople, make noise. ICE doesn't respond to reason, but it responds to public shame." That same afternoon, Jimena organized a press conference in front of the Child Detention Center. Maria spoke, trembling but firmly. She told everything, from the promise she made in Honduras to the day her daughter was separated at the border. Local media broadcast it, then came a note on Univision, and later Telemundo interviewed her live. The story went viral on social media under the hashtag #FreeAnna. Within hours, dozens of women, activists, migrant mothers, and ordinary citizens began sharing the case. Some offered money, others lawyers, all indignant. Maria received support messages from people in Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston. A Salvadoran woman wrote, "I went through the same thing. Don't give up. Fight to the end." ICE authorities, pressured by media scrutiny, responded with a vague statement, assuring they were reviewing the case with sensitivity and in adherence to protocols. But they didn't mention Anna's name. They didn't talk about reunification, just cold, calculated phrases. 2 days later, Jimena achieved the unthinkable, an emergency hearing before a federal immigration judge. "This is our opportunity, Maria," she said firmly. "We're going to ask for Anna's release under your direct custody. We have the evidence, the work contract, your payments, the letters, medical reports, your visa. But most importantly, we have the people's support." On the day of the hearing, Maria, dressed in her best clothes, a well-ironed white blouse, dark pants, and the virgin necklace her mother had given her. She was trembling, not from fear of the judge, but because of everything at stake. In the courtroom, government lawyers repeated the usual, that Maria's status didn't guarantee custody, that the crossing was illegal, that the minor should remain under observation. But Jimena counterattacked forcefully. Your Honor, this is not a criminal. She is a mother, a worker with legal permission, with fixed residence, with stable income. And this child, she said, pointing to a photo of Anna, has been deprived of contact with her mother by arbitrary decisions that violate fundamental rights. The judge, a grey-haired man with a stern face, remained silent for several seconds. Then he took a deep breath and said, "This court recognizes that, although the mother acted outside the formal immigration process by seeking her daughter's crossing, she was motivated by desperation and affection. The release of the minor under maternal custody is granted, with monthly ICE supervision. Case closed." Maria didn't understand what she had heard. She remained motionless. It was Jimena who hugged her first, crying, "We won! Maria, you did it! You're going to be with your daughter!" Maria fell to her knees, covering her mouth with her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. She couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe that after everything, they were going to let her hug her daughter. Hours later, at the same center where she had been behind glass, Maria waited in front of a white door. Her heart was beating like a drum. She heard footsteps, and then the door opened. Ina was there in the same sweatshirt but with a different face. Scared, yes, but also with something new in her eyes. Hope. Maria extended her arms, holding back tears. Anna hesitated for a second. Then she ran toward her. They hugged for the first time since everything began. They cried together, silently, holding each other as if the world was going to separate them again. But there was no more glass, no more bars, no more distance. That hug wouldn't erase the pain, or the lost days, or the trauma, but it was the beginning, the first step toward healing. The news of Maria and Anna's reunion spread like wildfire in dry grass. It wasn't just a story about a mother and daughter. It was a cry against injustice, a demonstration that resistance can also come from the most intimate pain, and that a single voice, if born from love, can become an echo that shakes cold walls and hardened hearts. The day after the hearing, Maria appeared on main news programs. The media called her the mother who beat the system, but she didn't feel like a hero. She was barely breathing after months of emotional suffocation. Anna remained quiet, still withdrawn, clinging to her mother as if she feared someone would come to separate them again. During the first days in Maria's modest Orlando apartment, everything was silence. Not because of lack of love, but because fear still lived in the corners. Anna woke up startled in the middle of the night. Sometimes she screamed, other times she cried silently. When Maria hugged her, the child remained still, without responding. The connection, although not broken, was wounded. Maria decided to stop working for a while. She quit the hotel and lived off her savings, knowing that nothing was more urgent than healing her daughter's soul. She cooked every day what Anna wanted: soups, rice pudding, tamales. They sat to eat together, but the child barely tasted food. She spent hours drawing, locked within herself. One afternoon, Maria found one of her drawings on the bed. It was a truck with fruit boxes, and inside it, a girl curled up with closed eyes. In a corner, a sad son with a falling tear. That image broke her heart. "Anna, my love," she said softly, "do you want to talk about it?" The child shook her head and went to the bathroom without saying anything. Maria stared at the drawing for a long time. Then she stored it in a box, intending to show it to a child therapist. It was Jimena, the lawyer, who helped them get free psychological care. Thanks to media exposure, many organizations had offered to help. Maria accepted everything they could offer. She had no pride when it came to her daughter. In one of those sessions, Anna spoke for the first time about what she experienced. "I thought I would never see you again, Mom. That they would leave me in that place forever, that you had forgotten about me." Maria couldn't help crying. The psychologist took her hand and asked her to simply listen, to let everything out. "A girl told me that her mom also left her, that afterward they don't come back. I told her that you would come back, but then I didn't know whether to believe it. That confession, so simple, so brutal, was like a slap. Maria understood that beyond the shelter's cold, the aluminum blankets, thick glass, and soulless forms, what had hurt Anna most was doubt, not knowing if she still had her mother. From that day, Maria changed her approach. She no longer insisted on asking if she was okay. She simply hugged her, listened to her, let her cry when she needed to. They began going out together to the park, to the store, to Sunday Mass. Small, everyday things that little by little wove a new routine. And meanwhile, the story remained alive in the media. Television programs called. Community radios wanted to interview her. Maria accepted some invitations, but not all. She didn't want to become a spectacle. She just wanted her story to help other mothers. A Spanish YouTube channel with more than 1 million subscribers published a short documentary titled Ana, the Girl Behind the Glass. Images of the reunion, the embrace, Maria shouting, "I love you," through the crystal, moved thousands. The video went viral throughout Latin America. Comments from women from Argentina to El Salvador filled the section. I was also Ana. My mom crossed and never came back. I wish she had. So brave, such a powerful story. Thank you for not giving up. Public pressure had an effect. In less than a month, ICE sent a statement reviewing the case's status. Although Maria still didn't qualify for permanent residence, her situation was categorized as a humanitarian case under supervision, which allowed her to remain legally in the country indefinitely while the process advanced. Jimena celebrated the achievement cautiously. There's still a long way to go, but this step is huge. Now we can request a U visa or initiate an adjustment for exceptional reasons. It's not certain, but it's possible. Maria nodded. She didn't need guarantees. She just needed time with her daughter. Meanwhile, Anna slowly began to be a child again. One day in the park, she let go of her mother's hand to run after a butterfly. Maria stood watching her with a sad but genuine smile, because that butterfly was a symbol of something: movement, freedom, life. That night, before sleeping, Anna got into bed with her mother, as she used to do before. "Mommy," she whispered while settling under the blanket, "can you tell me again how you looked for me?" And for the first time since they reunited, Maria told her the story not as a tragedy, but as a tale. Their tale. One with monsters, yes, but also with bravery, with love, with an ending still unwritten. But that, at least, already had them together. The sun timidly entered through the living room window when Anna sat for the first time to do her homework on the small folding table Maria had bought second-hand. The apartment still smelled of old humidity, unpainted walls, mismatched furniture. But in the middle of all that, there was something new, something that couldn't be bought with all the dollars in the world. Her daughter's presence, alive, breathing, there, within her reach. But being together didn't mean everything was fine. Anna had changed. She was no longer the laughing child who used to run barefoot through Grandma's yard. Now she was quieter, more careful, as if each word had to pass through an internal filter before coming out. She smiled little. She slept holding her mother, but woke up in the middle of the night with cold sweat, trembling, whispering things that didn't always make sense. "Don't leave me alone, Mommy. Please, don't leave me alone again." Maria hugged her tightly, feeling a guilt that tore her chest. She whispered in her ear, "Never again, my love. Never again. No one is going to separate us." But she knew the damage was already done, that the scar this separation had left on her daughter's soul wouldn't be easily erased. Therapy visits became routine. Anna initially refused to talk, but over time she began to open up. She drew, she wrote small stories, and through those small windows, Maria discovered the true horror her daughter had lived during the journey. Once they hid me in a box and I couldn't move, she told her one afternoon in a low voice while eating rice with fried plantain. I was afraid I would die there. Maria dropped the spoon. She closed her eyes. She breathed deeply. And instead of saying, "It's over now," she took her hand and said, "Thank you for trusting me to tell me." Because she had already learned that it wasn't about forgetting, but about naming the pain, looking it in the eyes, and walking with it. The trauma wasn't limited to memories. It was also in small things. Anna didn't want to close the bathroom door. She couldn't stand being alone in a room with the lights off. She was scared by any loud noise, and when someone knocked on the apartment door, she hid behind her mother. Maria tried to stay calm, but there were nights when, after putting Anna to bed, she locked herself in the bathroom to cry. Not from weakness, but because sometimes pain also needs its own space. School was another challenge. Maria enrolled Anna in a public elementary school 5 blocks from the apartment. The first day of classes was like reliving the farewell at the bus terminal in Honduras. Anna clung to her arm forcefully, with a pale face. "I don't want to go, Mommy. What if you don't come back for me?" Maria knelt in front of her, holding back tears. "I'll be here when you get out, I promise. And this time, I'll keep that promise every day." Anna entered classes with her head down. Maria stayed on the sidewalk in front of the fence without moving for hours, as if watching from afar could protect her. The days passed, slowly, like a broken faucet dripping. But little by little, small miracles began to appear. A laugh during dinner, a drawing of a tree and 2 people holding hands, a call from school where the teacher said Anna had read aloud for the first time. And one night, when turning off the light, Anna said something Maria would keep forever. "Today, I dreamed you hugged me." But it was real, not behind the glass. That comment gave her strength to continue, to keep fighting for papers, for stability, for a life that was still far from perfect, but that at least was together. Because if Maria had learned anything, it was that pain doesn't erase. You learn to live with it. It becomes part of the body, like a scar on the skin. And although it's not always visible, it's always there, remembering what was, what it cost to get here. One day, while walking back from school, Anna stopped suddenly and looked at the sky. "Do you think Grandma misses me?" Maria smiled. "Of course she does. Every day." Anna remained thoughtful for a few seconds and then asked, "Can we write her a letter?" Maria nodded, holding back tears. "Yes, my love, and we'll send it with drawings and everything." Because although the journey north was cruel, and although the system wanted to reduce them to numbers and documents, the bond between them remained intact, maybe a little broken, maybe mended, but stronger than ever. And now, more than ever, they knew that freedom wasn't in papers or borders. It was in being able to hold hands, in walking side by side, and in knowing that, whatever happens, they wouldn't let go again. Several months passed since that hearing that changed their lives. The apartment remained the same, small, with borrowed furniture and peeling paint in some corners, but now there was something that wasn't noticeable in the walls or room size: tranquility. It wasn't complete peace, nor constant happiness, but a relief, a silence that no longer hurt but calmed. Anna had returned to school and was slowly beginning to resemble that child Maria had left in Honduras. She no longer slept holding her mother every night, but still curled up next to her when there were storms. She laughed heartily at animal videos on YouTube. She did homework with her colors organized by order of use. And every time they said goodbye in the morning, she no longer asked if her mother would return. Now she just said, "See you later, Mommy." And Maria responded always with a kiss on the forehead and "I love you more than anything, my life." Although they didn't have much, Maria had gotten a new job cleaning offices during early morning hours, which allowed her to be home during the day, at least until Anna returned from school. She slept few hours, yes, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that every time Anna opened the door when returning from classes, she was there. Sometimes, at night, they sat together to iron clothes or fold blankets while listening to soft music on the radio. And although for others it might seem like a dull routine, for them it was a sacred ceremony, being together without fear, without clocks, without bars. The immigration process continued its course. Jimena, the lawyer, had explained that they were still in a delicate situation. Maria had to appear monthly before immigration authorities to report. Any error, any omission, could cost them the stability they had worked so hard to build. As long as you keep working and complying with everything, we have options, Jimena told her in a meeting. We could apply for a U visa if you manage to prove Anna was a victim of human trafficking. It won't be easy, but it's possible. Maria nodded. She was used to hearing that nothing was easy. One afternoon, while Anna did homework, Maria watched her silently from the kitchen. The child wrote concentrated, with her tongue slightly out, as she did when she was little. In the background, a lullaby was playing that Anna sometimes asked to put on to calm down. It was in that instant, between unwashed dishes and school papers on the table, that Maria understood something she never could have imagined in Honduras. Freedom wasn't arriving in the United States. It wasn't having papers or bank accounts or new furniture. Freedom was this: being able to see her daughter every day, being able to touch her, hear her voice, say good night without a glass wall in between. One April night, Anna asked Maria to accompany her to a school event, a presentation about world cultures. Anna, with her teacher's help, had prepared a small exposition about Honduras. She wore an embroidered blouse Maria had brought in her suitcase when she crossed the border months earlier. The child recited with a firm accent facts about her country, that it was a land of mountains, coffee, and brave people. And at the end, she said, "I am from Honduras, and I'm here because my mother crossed borders for me." Maria, sitting on a plastic chair, couldn't hold back tears, not only because her daughter was there, standing in front of everyone, confident, strong, but because she finally felt that all the sacrifice, all the fear, all the anguish had been worth it. After the event, while walking home, Anna took her mother's hand and said something Maria would keep forever. "Mommy, now I know you never left me. You just went to find a path for both of us." Maria stopped. She crouched to be at her height and responded, "And I found it, my life. I found it with you." That path wasn't perfect. There were still difficult nights. There were still papers to sign, immigration interviews, reports, lawyer visits. But now they weren't separated. They were together, and that changed everything. Every morning, when they went out to the street holding hands, they knew the world out there was still hard, but they also knew that while walking side by side, there was no system that could break what they had rebuilt with so much pain and love. Maria and Anna's story wasn't a fairy tale. It was real, with mistakes, with desperate decisions, with tears that still fell silently, but also with hope, with strength, with an unbreakable love that had crossed mountains, deserts, walls, and offices full of indifference. And now, in that small apartment, at that borrowed table, among school books and colorful drawings, lived a kept promise: they would never be separated again. And if you like this story, you'll surely love the next one appearing on your screen. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave your like, and turn on notifications. Until next time.